Hello, good evening. This is News Tonight here on GHOne television with me, Awisi, Dede, Djangay. Let's take a look at our headlines tonight. At least 3 persons feared dead as Accra is submerged for obtained time after Sunday's heavy downpour. Details as NADMO warns of demolition buildings in waterways.
So far, se toke se dia ebe ya no in so area.
Obu won ma baby ansuo ni fa no. We si dan yesi ho.
Some demolition needs to be done within this community for people to enjoy.
Tonight, as the Ghana Meteorological Agency warns of more rains in the days ahead, we explore practical solutions to the annual event more than 60 years after it made headlines in national dailies. And also in a bulletin, police in Ashanti region call for stronger collaboration between Ghana Police Service, GES and parents to effectively address possession of firearms by students in schools. In business tonight, consumers to enjoy reduction in prices of Electroland Ghana in response to the cedi appreciation against the dollar.
Electroland Ghana Limited has reduced prices. It's a gargantuan price reduction.
Details of these and many more coming up shortly. Stay with me. Thank you so much for tuning in. The news is coming to you live from our Platinum studio here in Accra, and it's also streaming live on Facebook at GHOne TV. My name is Awisi, Dede, Djangay. Let's start off with our biggest story for tonight on Insight. Well, on Insight, at least 3 persons, including a toddler, are reported to have lost their lives after Sunday's downpour. Hundreds of persons displaced and properties destroyed. Well, the incident once again exposes the capital city's weakness in dealing with floodwaters. The reoccurrence has raised concerns that the issue is gradually being normalized, largely due to the absence of a clear long-term roadmap to address it. We know on April 2, 2025, President John Dramani Mahama directed the Greater Accra Regional Minister and MMDAs to take decisive action against individuals whose properties obstruct waterways. The President's call forms part of renewed effort to curb the perennial flooding typically witnessed during the rainy season. Let me take you back to that moment.
We're scattered.
A lot of the flooding in the city is caused by human activity. We are the problem. What is happening here does not affect the factories here. The water comes from somewhere, and once it can pass and continue, it will back up and affect the communities beyond. These are streams that existed long before our grandfathers were born. They are streams that flow from the Equape Mountains and find their way to the sea. Then we decided to come and build our capital city across the streams. So even if you build your capital city, you must allow the streams to flow through. People have built and blocked it. If you build and block a stream, the water will still come. But when it comes and it can't pass, what will it do? It will flood its banks. That's all that is happening in this city. And that's why we're asking the regional minister and the district chief executive to take a very tough stand on people whose properties are blocking waterways, because they're creating distraction for other people's properties and even loss of lives. Sometimes when it floods heavily, we lose human lives. And so it's not because we don't have a sympathy for people like that, but we must enforce the bylaws.
So you had the President John Dramani on the issues of flooding. Well, nearly a month after that directive, Accra is flooded again. At least 3 lives have been lost and hundreds of residents in Lakeside, Kaneshie and other suburbs of Accra have been displaced. In response, the Deputy National Director of NADMO has issued a strong warning of demolishing buildings constructed on waterways to prevent further disaster. My colleague Obed Kingaglo monitored the assessment exercise by NADMO and has filed this report.
Residents of Ashie and other parts of Adenta woke up to scenes of destruction after Sunday's torrential rains. Homes submerged, properties destroyed, and families left stranded. The cost running into thousands of Ghana cedis. As of 10 a.m. Monday morning, many residents were seen scooping flood waters out of their homes. Debris were scattered across the community's narrow streets, whilst drains remained heavily silted, slowing any water flow. Comfort Okine, a mother of 2, is left devastated.
Yes, no to the Nimbeshe, Cosefono, Ayawashi, Omeshayin. Yes, Reno.
Yeah, fridge na deep freezer fridge ni nyina na musu ani enuane e wo kitchen. Pese ne ma bebra se nkwala books omudu ko school. On bags on tade ni nyina. I say.
Link roads and alleys were also rendered inaccessible, while some residents waded through the waters to salvage their properties. Others simply stood helpless with no dry place to sleep.
What higher waterway? Ensuring to me, Fahina and Fire dan basis yo. But I was say, yeah, the right thing. No, I was say, Eba, Obu on my baby and Sioni Fano, was sit down yes you. Now, Minisika, Medine Betty Manson. Into Ukoka, now you ask a matter actually. So, yeah, what has for so many years? Yeah, any problem say. But it's I done way be see hope and your problem starting yeah.
Because in so far in no correct. In so far in so area. In so area. In so far a far say talk say there in so area.
The havoc caused by the flooding situation did not only affect residents in these communities, it also destroyed properties by government. What you see here is a drain that has been destroyed by the force of the rains.
But during a tour to assess the situation in affected areas in the capital, Deputy National Director of NADMO, Ahmed Rufai, warned of demolishing structures in waterways to avert future reoccurrence.
Yesterday, when our men came to the fold, they couldn't even identify whether there was even a slab up here. The whole place was full, covered with water. It got to a time when we needed to even bring a boat to this place. So we are advising and suggesting to the assembly that some demolition needs to be done within this community for people to enjoy their livelihood.
Though some casualties have been recorded, the National Disaster Management Organization is yet to confirm the figure. Residents continue to count their losses as they call on government to construct larger drains for easy flow of water. For GHOne News, Obed Kingaglo.
Well, if you live in a flood-prone area, you should be particularly concerned because GMET is warning residents in the middle and northern belt to expect more rains in the coming days. Felicity Ahiafianyo, acting head of forecasting at the agency, spoke earlier on your show.
Currently, the chart that we are using is indicating that some places, especially the middle into the northern portions, are likely to have some scattered cases midweek into the weekend. The rains have started. In March, we came up with the seasonal forecast for southern Ghana. So we indicated that the rains have started, and then also there will be dry spells. There will be some days without rain, and that is what we have experienced. And currently, we are heading towards the peak of the rainy season. where we expect this sort of range to happen. In the coming days or in the coming weeks, yes, some other places are also likely to experience what Greater Accra, part of Central and Western region, has experienced yesterday.
Well, also earlier today, Chairperson of the Works and Housing of Parliament and Member of Parliament for Doma West, Vincent Opon Asamoah, has blamed the siting of structures on waterways and the dumping of waste into drains as the primary cause of flooding in the capital. He spoke to my colleague earlier, but we are joined on the phone by Civil Engineer Abdullahi Mahama. He joins me on the bulletin to help us explore the practical short to long-term solutions to flooding in the country. Good to have you on the program, sir. Okay, we are trying to get to Civil Engineer Abdullahi Mahama to have a conversation on this, because we are learning that at least 3 people have lost their lives, including a toddler, were reported to have lost their lives after Sunday's flood. Hundreds of persons displaced and properties destroyed due to the flood. The incident, we know, once again exposes the capital's weakness in dealing with flood water. The reoccurrence has raised concerns that the issue is gradually being normalized, largely due to the absence of a clear long-term roadmap to address the issue. We also brought to you a soundbite by President John Dramani Mahama, who on April 2, 2025, directed the Greater Accra Regional Minister and MMDA to take decisive action against individuals whose properties obstruct waterways. We have the engineer on the phone. Good to have you on the program, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Right, sir. There's been a lot of attribution to this, choke gutters, improper ways of dumping refuse, engineering flaws. You are a civil engineer. With your expertise, what would you say really is the problem here?
Yeah, good evening to your channel viewers. We are unfortunately in the Greater Accra, and we are a receptor to all the higher elevated areas within our the Greater Accra region. Weja, McCarthy Hills, Pokwase, Amasaman, Kuso, Pokwase, what do you call it? Mukubi and then Ayimesa are surrounding Accra. So they are high elevation, about thousands of meters above sea level. Unfortunately, all the water from these areas are supposed to get to Accra. I think that in 2022, there was a report from the Authority of Department that there was supposed to be 18 receptors or reservoirs constructed in Accra, and none has been constructed at the time. These receptors were supposed to actually contain all the fresh waters that would have inundated our land, identified in the low-lying areas. Will we know whether they have started them and what stage are we? That is one. So that is a flaw from the authority, which is the Hydrological Services Authority. What have they done to it so far? Number 2, I've come across a lot of buildings which are springing up like mushrooms in highly water-prone areas. If you look at Abukubi, for instance, there's a whole river which is filled now. So I'm sure that because you're a house of records, you can do this. The NADMO officer who spoke previously, they have this information. They can go to these areas and start with the structures which are actually springing up in the water course. Because the water that I saw in 2021, the stream or the river, has been filled by 60% of boulders. And sadly, they're having big factories and warehouses sitting on the river course. And that is the effect that we're having in Accra. Because that particular river connects all the way through Ashanti, to get to Adodomi Pillar 2 and move to Aveno. So if you are actually reducing the area of the receptor, obviously the flash flood will be witnessed in Accra. And unfortunately, I don't know how the NADMO are going to communicate or work with the assemblies to get this thing resolved. I'm so happy about the president's directive. The minister, I've seen some ruthlessness in her. I'm sure that it can just descend onto the other local assemblies and then get structures, especially buildings which are actually sitting in the waterway, which are still under construction. There are two things. They get the permit. If they were not given permit, there's a law that mandates the assembly to demolish these structures. Have an issue from day one. If they got permit, then we should question the engineers who were giving permit to these structures sitting in the waterprone areas. So I think that the president call is in the right direction. Let the assembly specialize on what the president has said, and then demolish those buildings. I think we can have some peace of mind, because there has been a new law which was passed in 2022, just 3 years ago, under 3 years ago. That is a new National Building Regulation, LI 2465. And 56, if you just permit me, it says that any land which is liable to flooding, which is seeing a development on it, that developer has to provide adequate flood control measures. Now, if you are putting your buildings in a river, which rivers are supposed to accommodate the water and gently get to Accra before they enter the Odo and then go to the sea, and you are reducing the area of the receptors, putting up buildings and warehouses, you and I cannot have those kind of money to go and first and foremost fill the rivers and put up these structures on them. These are millions of cedis and millions of dollars. So we should know where the problem is coming. In fact, even though there are areas in the Greater Accra where, whether you like it or not, even with the smallest precipitation, we'll have some floods there because of the lowest of the nature of the area. But some of them are becoming human-induced. And the earlier we go with the president directive, especially resetting the country, the better for all of us. At least we can minimize the extent of devastation when the rains come.
So in essence, you agree with the decision to demolish these buildings obstructing waterways, in essence then?
Certainly, because nobody is allowed by law.
And you're certain that it would give us the desired outcome, because flooding has been happening since time immemorial.
It will greatly minimize the extent of devastation, and then we do the other factors I spoke about. Where are the 18 receptors which are supposed to be constructed according to the Auditor General's report, which have not been done? I don't know for the past 2.5 years whether we are in a certain state that we are not being briefed. Otherwise, we have to see the functionality of these receptors, the reservoirs, which are supposed to accommodate quite a sizable quantity of water, so that if we are supposed to witness about, let's say, 90 millimeters of water inundating the surface of the earth, maybe because of the receptors, we will have about 10. We will have 20, so that even vehicles can move through the rivers because of the levels that we are experiencing. But if we don't get these receptors done, and ironically, we are rather putting boulders. In fact, you remember that the Greater Regional Minister, recently, when she went to Wager, she saw an ongoing construction of about 2 sides of a stadium in a river that some foreigners have filled with the boulders, and she instructed them to remove it. So just imagine that area was supposed to accommodate about 10,000 of liters of water. Now, if this place have been filled, obviously you know that the 10,000 liters of water ordinarily would flow into other people's homes. So this is where I say that we have to capitalize on the president's call and deal with the issue decisively. And I'm sure that we can have some relief if we get these things done according to the laws that have been mandated by the Assembly to act, and then we'll get some solutions.
Well, Engineer Abdullahi Muhammad, I'm curious, because the situation of flooding began happening around 1952. That's long before I was born. Do you think it's high time we re-strategize, because we seem to not get it right? And beyond the demolition of structures and waterways, and you also mentioned the existence of receptors. Beyond that, do you think we can ever fight against the issue of flooding here?
We cannot eliminate in totality the flood. In fact, China in 2023 witnessed the highest flooding in over 140 years. So what it means is that if we do the right thing, the only thing we can do is that we are going to minimize the extent of devastation. That is what we can do, because we cannot eliminate in totality the flood water which we inundate the surface. But with proper adherence, compliance with the National Building Regulation LI 2465, and then the Land Use and Special Plan Act 2016 at 925, with all the laid down rules and regulations, we can, with the provision of the receptors, which are supposed to actually be constructed at the lowest of the areas within the capital, we will be able to minimize drastically the extent of devastation. I just gave an example. Had it not been a minister going to the Water area to go and stop a construction which was going on in a water proper, where people have gone to excavate boulders from the high hills and are filling a natural receptor to construct factories. And I said, if the size of the facility is about 3 times or so the stadium capacity of a stadium, can you imagine the water they are going to accommodate if the place was left to fill nature's own force majeure? The force majeure is that water is an act of God. You cannot do anything about it. It's like a tremor, earthquake. These are things that you have to prepare to receive them and minimize the level of devastation. That's what we can do.
Okay. Thank you so much for making time to speak with us. That was Engineer Abdullahi Mahama, who is actually lauding the President and NADMO's directive to demolish structures in waterways. And if you're just joining us, we were talking about the issues of flooding, because we know that at least 3 persons, including a toddler, were reported to have lost their lives earlier yesterday, and hundreds of persons displaced and properties destroyed. Well, we also know that the incident once again exposes the capital city's weakness in dealing with flood waters. And that brings us to the end of Insight here on News Tonight. We'll be back after this break. You're welcome back. This is still News Tonight here on GHOne TV. Let's do other stories now. Following an operation by the Ghana Immigration Service to round up illegal migrants of the streets, major parts of Accra have been rid of the foreigners. Days after the task force hits the streets, the areas that served as hubs for the migrants have been restored clean. My colleague Eko Boachi paid a visit to such areas to assess the situation. Take a look.
The situation at the Kwame Nkrumah interchange on a Monday morning is quite different from what you would have seen in other days. But after the intervention of the Ghana Immigration Service, the streets, which once used to be a hub for illegal and undocumented immigrants is now rid of them. Now the spaces in which they used to occupy is now taken over by some mentally challenged people.
A few minutes drive eastward, the Obechebi Lamte interchange had been swept clean. People who work in the area and hawkers for the first time in years could take naps under the overpass without being bothered by the migrants. But is this an ideal situation? The locals share their thoughts with me.
Their exit has brought calm here. They used to make this place dirty, but now circle has become neat, and we can sit here and
eat. They used to beg for alms and sleep here. We don't know exactly where they came from as they left.
Clad in FC Barcelona's jerseys, children of these illegal migrants used to walk the streets of Spintex Road to the Accra Mall Tetekwashi runabout area, begging for alms and giving the alms they've collected to their parents. Now the streets is rid of them, cars moving freely and people at the Accra Mall area shopping to their comforts without interruptions of these little children, whom they say sometimes attack them with stones when they refuse to give the kids some money.
Deporting them is the best. And even I think these people are not only in Accra here or around Accra Mall. I think this should be extended to Ashaima, Tema, okay, and its environment, because looking at, and also Medina, because there are a lot there. And that is why initially I stated that it should not be like we are wicked, and this should not be related to government, because me like this, I have traveled before. You can't go to Dubai and be dragging people's shirt to give you money.
Too much.
There used to be a disturbance. They would drag your white clothes and make it dirty. It's good riddance.
It's right, they leave. The scorching sun risks them getting ill.
The Ghana Immigration Service began medical examination and documentation processes for the illegal migrants. But another challenge presents itself. Aside from the immigration issues, the streets still have indigents sleeping there and begging for alms. Same as the migrants. That's a story for another day. So then, this is Echo Watchers Report for GHOne TV.
Well, the Ghana Police Service, through its DOFSU unit, has launched an initiative to protect vulnerable headquarters, popularly known as KIA. This move follows disturbing revelations of abuse and exploitation among the young girls working on the street of Accra. Here is the Director General of the CID, DCOP Lydia Donko, speaking on the initiative earlier.
It was a moment of solidarity and change at the DOFSU headquarters in Accra as the Ghana Police Service unveiled a bold new initiative to protect one of Ghana's most vulnerable communities, young female head porters, known as KIA. The Director General of the CID, DCOP Lydia Donko, said the initiative was born out of compassion and urgency after hearing first-hand accounts of the abuse KIA face daily.
Abuse in all its forms should not be tolerated in our society. Hence, we are going to put together a comprehensive strategy to protect you from abuse on the streets, while the government and all stakeholders, include the police, map out strategies to get you off the streets in the long run.
Police officers will receive specialized training to treat such complaints and complainants with dignity and act swiftly on reports of abuse.
It's not lost on me that the road ahead of us might not be easy, it might be bumpy. However, we can make it if we commit to working together side by side to build a society where no man is afraid, where every child is not afraid to dream, and where every carrier knows that the law stands with her and that they are not alone.
The desk, to be supervised by the Director of DOFSU, will be the first point of response for complaints from KIA.
The collaboration is aimed at committing to understanding the challenges and needs of the Kayaye and to tailor support to help address these challenges.
The program also includes intensified public education, community sensitization in child marriage-prone areas, and a planned social media campaign to raise national awareness.
There has been a call to action to us, to you, to me, to everybody. So how do we then bring together a national strategy for Kayaye that addresses the pull, the push, and the risk and vulnerability?
The initiative was warmly received by the Page and Boresa Royal Foundation, whose advocacy helped spark the project.
There should be a multi-sectoral collaboration where all sectors of government, private sector, individuals and all that put their efforts together to consolidate efforts and look at how Kayaye can be supported.
And I have seen some of the inhumane treatments meted out to these young girls who are looking for nothing but better opportunities, who are looking for nothing but better livelihood.
Earlier, the supported Kayaye group has petitioned the Ghana Police Service through the Criminal Investigation Department to prioritize their safety, security, and welfare concerns.
Our dreams and aspirations of having better and quality lives still hold. We therefore appeal for structured guidelines and systems that will support those decisions of becoming nurses, police officers, fire officers, and journalists, among others.
As the hashtags Safe Not Silent, Kayaye Life Matters, and Dofsu Cares trend, a new chapter begins in Ghana's fight for human rights and dignity for all.
Now let's do some court stories now, because the Court of Appeal has dismissed an application for stay of proceedings filed by Nana Appiah-Mensah, CEO of the defunct gold dealership firm Men's Gold. The court ruled that he failed to establish an exceptional grounds for which it could exercise its discretion in his favor. Number one had filed the application in an attempt to halt proceedings at the High Court, where he's facing charges related to the misappropriation of customers' fund. His earlier request at the High Court for a stay of proceedings was dismissed by trial judge Justice Ernest Owusu-Dapa. Undeterred, Number One's legal team, led by Kwame Boafu Ekufu, took the matter to the Court of Appeal. However, a three-member panel on Monday, today, May 19, 2025, ruled that no compelling reasons were provided to warrant his ask. We are joined on the phone by our legal affairs correspondent Mutala Inusa, who would give us more details on this particular matter. Mutala, good to have you on the program. I'm curious, what was the reaction of the aggrieved customers on this particular development in court today?
Well, I would say Dede, for them, they think that it's a welcome news. It's a great call by the court, especially so when they had a High Court. The case has been being adjourned anytime it comes out because of the pendency of the stay of proceedings at the Court of Appeal, and they welcome that. They also believe that it has been able to get some education on how the wheels of justice grind slowly, but for them, the decision from the Court of Appeal is one that has come as a good news to them. We can take a listen to Fred Fortin, who speaks for the agreement to customers.
It's all well and good, and it's in the interest of justice, and that at the end of the day, it's been given the fair trial which is going on, and we are happy that now the court below can proceed with the trial. And I'm told, I've been advised by our lawyers that while the trial is going on, the actual appeal can also take place, and it doesn't take away any right from the accused persons. And so, as customers, we are happy. We have been calling for speedy trial, and I think that is what's going on. Some of us, we've been coming to court, and we've been advised and educated by our lawyers, and so we know that there's a saying that the wheel of justice grinds slowly, but it will surely get to its destination, even though we had anticipated that this case should have been dealt with before the end of last year. But however, justice have its own path, and that is what we are patiently going along with them. It is our hope that at the end of it all, justice
Well, Murtala, we also know that the man himself, Namwan, was in court today. What has he been saying?
Well, actually, for Namwan, he thinks that the decision of the Court of Appeal probably would not be the end of the road for him. He's pondering over whether to proceed to the very final court of the land, the Supreme Court, but that will be first done if he has consultation or confer with his lawyers, and the advice of the lawyers will inform his next line of action. We can listen to Namwan moments after the court has dismissed his request.
It doesn't end here. I mean, we still have the Supreme Court. So we just exercise all our rights, enshrined under the Constitution, the Republic, this beautiful Republic. So I'll confer with my lawyers, and then whatever as they so advise.
Well, Murtala, so now that this is what is happening now, what next in court?
So what is also clear is that currently now one has that particular notice of appeal pending at the Court of Appeal. And what is clear, that the decision of the Court of Appeal on the stay of proceeding means that on the 28th of May this month, Namwan will have to come back to the High Court before Justice Ernesto Usudapa to open his defense. The court has ordered him and his two companies to open their defense. So they will come back to court earlier. The court has ordered that they file their witness statement and all exhibits that they will rely on in defending themselves. So on the 28th of May, the court will be requiring that Namwan would have done all these things and he will enter into the witness box to provide answers to the 35 counts that the court has asked that he and his company respond to.
Okay. Thank you so much, our legal affairs correspondent Murtala Yunusa, bringing us up to speed on what has been happening in court today. Let's move on to a rather disturbing development, because the Ashanti Regional Police PRO, DSP Godwin Ahianyo, has called for a stronger collaboration between the Ghana Police Service and the GES and PTA to effectively address the alarming trend of students possessing firearms in school. This comes after a 16-year-old high school student was arrested for possessing a locally manufactured firearm in school. But speaking on Newsroom earlier, DSP Ahianyo acknowledged that while the police are intensifying effort to sensitize the student, the operations alone cannot fully resolve the issue without the help of other stakeholders. Take a listen.
Possession of firearms are unlawful, because we know in Ghana that we don't register locally manufactured weapons. So if you are found with any locally manufactured weapons, it's a crime. It's unlawful possession of firearms, and therefore you will be put before court. So what I talk about intelligence and other stakeholders coming on board, we the police, how to fight the crime. But how do we stop this menace or nip it in the back? We need other stakeholders like the parents, like the school authorities, like the DES, all the stakeholders have come on board. We have to sensitize them as Adabona indicated that they are already on the study, sensitizing the students. We need to also join them in that regard to be a good truth. If you have to say yes, we will engage all these stakeholders to be able to fight this menace.
Well, meanwhile, Dr. Adam Bona, Executive Secretary of the National Commission on Small Arms and Light Weapons, has also urged parents to act responsibly in the handling and storage of firearms. He emphasized the importance of ensuring that firearms are kept away from children and encouraged parents to remain vigilant in monitoring their ward.
Parents should rather be more responsible instead of probably being worried. Be more responsible. Know who your ward is. If you have a firearm, whether it is it's a legitimate firearm or it's an illegitimate firearm, check to know whether the firearm is where you kept it whilst your child is about to go to school or whilst your child is away in school. Check it instead of parents. So I would say that parents shouldn't be worried. We should be more responsible. When we were in school, I think our parents were a bit more responsible, and I would urge every parent today to be more responsible.
Well, let's have a conversation on this particular issue. And Deputy PRO for the Ghana Parent Teachers Association, I beg your pardon, Irene Sam, joins me on the bulletin. Good to have you on the program, Irene. I know this is quite concerning for you. Do you think parents and teachers are doing enough when it comes to discipline in our schools and homes?
Thank you very much. Good evening to our cherished viewers. Let me also join the call that is going on looking at the surge of indiscipline in our senior high schools. So let me quickly say that we as parents, we are not doing enough. Just as the school is also not doing enough, the society is also not doing enough, because all these areas are areas that our children, it informs their behavior. Listening to what the past speaker just said, you can see that a lot of responsibility relies on we as parents. When we let our guards down, that is when the school also suffers, society also suffers. So we are also doing the call that we as parents, we must be responsible enough, making sure that certain things are not in the reach of our wards, especially weapons, harmful instruments or materials should be hidden from the reach of our children. And then also, we should also bear in mind that our children only observe what we do most than whatever that we tell them. What model are we modeling to our children? What do they see us do? Look at our social media content. Look at our society today, full of violence everywhere. These things are informing their behavior. So as a school, children are also being made to abide by rules and regulations. And I quite remember that in the GS Code of Conduct to schools, they frown on the usage of weapons, possession of weapons in the school. So we are saying that it is time for us all to wake up and collaborate and make sure that some of these things are brought to a minimum low, because we don't want to hear sad things going on in our schools these days. It becomes a security threat for children, also for the school management as a whole. So we are not doing enough. So we need all of us must come together and then wake up for us to do more that we need to do to monitor and to supervise, our wards in the home, in the school, everywhere they find themselves. We should play that supervisory role and that monitoring role so that some of these things can be kept.
Beyond condemning this attitude of not really instilling discipline amongst students, both from parents and teachers, is the PTA looking to engage parents on responsible parenting, especially on issues surrounding firearm safety, because this is serious?
Yes, let me say that we have begun that education long ago. But you see, it is time for us, when a child is admitted to the school, that is when we have to make sure that the parents and the child is being made to understand the rules that is governing the society or the school that the child finds himself or herself. So we and the PTA front, we have started educating our parents for them to know that we have to be good parents to our children, trying to train them up in the way that they should go, especially in the surge of, holding or possession of arms, which shouldn't be the case at all. So at the PTA front, that education has started, but I must add that we need to really intensify it, that parents will know that this frowns on the rules on regulations in our schools, and therefore we should take, a stern look at it. And then also at the school level, when these things happen, we also must make sure that sanctions are applied so that it becomes a deterrent to others who may like to do so. But majority of work relies on we parents. So we are also picking up from the parents level, and then we want to do more education for parents to know that these things are wrong and that we should do all that we can do to make it come to an end.
Right. Thank you so much, Irene Sam. Irene Sam is the Deputy PRO of the Ghana Parent and Teachers Association, speaking to me there on issues surrounding bringing guns in school. Let's do business now. Well, in business, consumers are set to enjoy reduced prices on electronics as Electroland Ghana Limited announces price reduction of electronic gadgets and the CDs Apeke promotion. The initiative aimed at making electronics more affordable for consumers was announced at a press conference held at the company's premises on Monday in Accra. There's more in this report.
The Cedis Apiki promotion is a nationwide campaign aimed at passing on the gains from the recent appreciation of the Ghanaian cedi. Addressing the media, head of marketing at the Electroland Ghana Limited, Adiza Ibrahim, says the price cut forms part of the company's efforts to ease the financial burden on customers and reflect on the ongoing improvements in the economy.
The cedis is appreciating against the dollars, which is a very good news for all of us because that is what the government have been pushing for. And so it is in line that as the biggest consumer electronics company in Ghana, we also follow suit. And so therefore we decided that the prices we have on all the consumer electronics and any other electronics we sell and all the brands we represent, we also look at reducing the prices. So today, in line with government effort in making sure cities appreciate against the dollars, Electroland Ghana Limited has reduced prices. It's a gargantuan price reduction. This is not even a marketing gimmicks. This is like the genuine thing.
Some customers who were present at the event shared their excitement, describing the promotion as timely and a relief in the face of rising cost of living.
Next week. First, no, new born will call and to me to say, dear, my super auntie, Yamishra Omona, or Munkosu Yanisana, Gana, Yen, Trembi. Obiam Betobina, they said, yeah, any BC, bet me out to be.
I normally come here to come and buy the items, and I've come and they reduce it, so I'm planning hard to see how best I can do to come and buy the reduction goods. I'm excited. I never knew it has been even be reduced, so now I'm going to organize myself and come here as quickly as possible to get what I want. And the other people will come and take some of the things that I may miss.
The company emphasized its commitment to passing on the gains of the cedi's appreciation to consumers through sustained price reductions, adding that it will continue to monitor the performance of the local currency.
MTN Ghana's Chief Executive Officer Stephen Blewett has defended the company's partnership with government regarding its 1 million codes program initiative, which aims to support young people in Ghana. The CEO explained that the initiative seeks to empower youth to create and develop innovative ideas for digital advancement in Africa.
At the 2025 MTN Editors Forum held in Tamale, MTN Ghana has pledged its continuous support to small and medium-sized enterprises in the country to improve the livelihoods of vulnerable individuals in the communities. The MTN Chief Executive Officer, Stephen Blewett, in his address to journalists representing the Savannah, Northern, Northeast and Upper East regions, highlighted the pressing need for Africa to harness its potential in the tech industry and foster homegrown advancements that can benefit its citizens.
And must come from Africa. There's no reason for it not to come from here. Why do we always have to get everything that comes from somewhere else? Why can't the next Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want to think about, come from here? Why can't the next big digital development come from us? There's absolutely every opportunity for that to happen, but people need to have the opportunities and they need to have the skills. And that's what the coding project is about.
Mr. Blewett announced that by the end of the year, 300 new community outlets will be established to help reduce the long queues at MTN offices across the country. Additionally, in the short term, 400 new call center staff will be hired to assist customers facing SIM swap challenges.
So we're looking at a new system. I've given my IT team the rest of this year to come up with a solution for SIM swap. Because more than 25% of the people you see in that queue are doing SIM swap. Another 20% are doing PIN reset, number PIN reset. So if we can address those two things first, that will reduce the numbers by almost half. Half of the people would not have to sit in that queue. We are putting across the country 400 more people. That decision is made. So that will release the pressure. It's a lot of money, but we're doing it whilst we are improving the systems. Okay? So we felt we'll rather give the people and so that we can improve the systems but ease the pressure.
He urged community members.
And that'll be all for business here on News Tonight. Let's go for a break now. You're welcome back. It's time for sports in Benghazi. Benjamin Yamwa. His name is Benghazi and he's in the studio with the very latest.
Well, thank you very much. And of course, I have some rugby stories coming through for you. Black Queens are in the news. And unfortunately for Lagos FC, they are out of the Ghana Premier League. All this coming up in sports, but that will be after this. We begin with some rugby stories where Dragons and Scarlets recorded impressive victories. In the second week of the National Rugby League Men's 13th Championship at the UG Rugby Stadium, Dragons secured a 36-14 victory over the University of Ghana Titans. An exciting encounter while Scarlets won over Panthers with a commanding 46-10 victory.
Wasted no time asserting their dominance, with Kofi Eduse Abba crossing the try line twice in the opening 8 minutes, giving Dragons an early lead. The Titans responded through Ichabat Osebonso's try in the 17th minute, but Emmanuel Boni quickly restored Dragons' momentum with a try just 3 minutes later. As the game approached its conclusion, George Quist crossed for a Titans try in the 75th minute, with George Tete Aite successfully converting shortly after. But Dragons sealed the win with a late try from Jeffrey Akwete, followed by a final conversion from Innocent Alate, ensuring a decisive 36-14 win. The second game of the day saw the Scarlets dominate Panthers with a commanding 46-10 victory. Scarlets set the tone early, with Jonathan Adote crossing for a try in the 6th minute, quickly followed by Chris Dagame's successful conversion. Panthers fought back late in the game with tries from Francis Figo Lawson in the 68th minute and Jalilu Abdul Yusuf in the 76th minute. Daryl Amwate successfully kicked a conversion in the 77th minute, but it was too late as Scarlets cruised to a 46-10 victory. Here is captain for the winning side, Scarlets, Frederick Aliba, reacting to the team's victory over Panthers.
Of Scarlets rugby. Today we had a very great game. We had a tough encounter. The score doesn't look like it, but we had a great game. We put in the efforts. For us, we played as a team. We've had a lot of backroom banter with Panthers, and we're expecting them to come in hard. Of course, they did, but I think we are the better club, and the score shows that we have a team and we played as a team. We lost a lot for our key players, but regardless, we played hard, we played well, and we had the win. We are just waiting for the next game. We are taking it one day at a time, and hopefully we'll see.
Let's do some women's football news now, where Kim Lass has named a squad of 24 players for the upcoming 2 friendly games with Ivory Coast on May 30 and June 3. And this forms part of team's preparations towards the Women's Africa Cup of Nations to be held from July 5 to 26. Now, this will be the 3rd friendly for the Queens under Kim Lass, following games with Morocco and Senegal. Now, Pimdakwa ladies midfielder Nancy Amo, together with other ladies goalkeeper Afi Amanyaku, have earned their maiden call-ups after impressing the Kenyan team at the GFA Kenyan Center at Pram Pram. Abigail Kofi Kim, Ankara Bibi Fomget, and a former Black Princess defender Louisa Enimwa, who plays for Baladares, have also been called up into the team. Now, Grace Echampo of Mezembe and Alice Kusi of Ali also making returns to the Black Queens team for the friendly between the Queens and the Ivorian counterpart ahead of the Nations Cup kicking off in July of this year for the women. Was it confirmed on the GPL that Lagos Cities are now out of the Ghana Premier League? They lost 4-1 this afternoon to Nations FC, and that means that Lagos Cities are officially relegated as they cannot survive the Ghana Premier League. Nations now, with this result, mean they are on top of the Ghana Premier League after the 4-1 win over Lagos Cities to advance, and so they are now on top with 3 rounds of games left in the GPL. Lagos Cities out, Nations now on top, chasing the ultimate in the Ghana Premier League. That should be it for sports. Back to you, Dede, for the rest of the bullet.
Thank you so much, Benjamin Yamwa, aka Benghazi, for bringing us sports news. And that brings us to the end of News Right here on GHOne Television. With me, Awisi, Dede, Djangay. Have a wonderful evening.
God has deserted us. God does not stand for us anymore.